on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, along with Kristen. This is Flix, and we're back! And Marvel has a new show, and it's Loki, and I'm loving it. Kristen, you're not sure yet, which should make for some interesting conversation.
Yeah, it hasn't. I don't hate it. I don't.
No,
that's a terrible way to do it. It's because I like it, but it just hasn't grabbed me yet. But there's also when you're dealing with time travel and shit like that, there's so many like weird threads that I hope they're gonna address, but I don't feel like they're going to.
You know what it is for me, and you sort of hit on something that I was going to hit on later on. It's doing what I thought it was going to do in the order of the shows that we've gotten so far. We got WandaVision, which was all like different reality, different morphing and magic and whatever, and then we had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which was like relatively grounded and hit on some real world issues and whatever, and now we're back up into the fantasy again. And I think if Marvel can maintain that balance, it's something that will do them good. It's interesting because Loki is the one of only two shows that we know for a fact is getting a second season, and the other one is the What If animated series, so that's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. As soon as you get into, I think we've talked about it before, as soon as you get into like time travel, multiple realities, multiple versions of stuff, that's just something you can do forever, because we've just gone to another reality, and this is another version of things, and you get into the whole like old school, like quantum leap type of thing. But are we
going to go step by step, or are we just spewing all of our thoughts at once?
I mean, I've got notes for both episodes, but I mean, I think episode 1 and episode 2 are completely the opposite of each other. Episode 1 was a great introduction episode, I think. Mm-hmm. Right from where we took off in the movies, and I love, because everything's connected, you can just literally have the movie footage, and he poured it out here, and he ended up here in the Gobi Desert, and then he got picked up by the TVA, and now here we are. I think I said I wanted to touch on one thing that you and I said right before we started recording, where you rightfully so said, hey, we should start recording. This show, to me, and I never asked you if you agreed with me or not, this show to me feels bigger because it's got one of the bigger main characters in it.
Well, and there's so much speculation on, is this going to be able to bring in, like, the Fantastic Four, or is this going to be what deals with this, or is this going to be
It's going to explain the multiverse, it's going to explain the Spider-Verse, it's going to tell us how WandaVision found Doctor Strange, and I will say, I love the interlocking nature of the MCU, if you guys haven't figured that out by now. But it means we're almost never paying attention to what's currently happening. We're always watching it and trying to presuppose what's happening next. I talk occasionally with my brother about movies, and I had to explain to him that because I've started doing this show, I've started watching movies the same way that I watch wrestling. Because for anybody that doesn't know, if you've been living under a rock, this podcast, this YouTube channel started as a wrestling show, and then we started doing this stuff. But it means I've started watching movies and TV shows and all that the same way that I watch wrestling. Is I'm watching it already with that filter of like, okay, what am I going to say about this? And that changes the way you watch stuff. I don't know whether you find the same thing or not, but like if I sit down and watch, like when we did the Batman movies, for example, that I've seen a million times, you're watching it with a brand new set of eyes if you are then getting ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was a terrible way to just I mean, yeah, that's
Yep.
It does. Well, and especially with the Marvel movies, like you said, you're always looking for, all right, what does this mean for this? Because
yeah, it turns into an Easter egg hunt, and I think eventually Marvel's going to reach a point where the audience can't see the forest for the trees if we're not already there. But we should start with the beginning episode, because the beginning episode, like I say, was a great introductory episode. He ports right out of Endgame, and I have to keep reminding myself that this is the Loki from the end of The first
This
Avengers
is the
movie?
one that when they go to get the Tesseract, when they go to get the time, I think it's the Space Stone.
Yeah.
When they go to get that,
They revisit the Battle of New York.
Yes, he escapes as opposed to ends up being taken to Asgard.
But it means that we're dealing with the Loki that never became a good guy.
Yes.
And I have to, and it's pretty simple. Like once you know that. But I have to remind myself of that as we're watching, cause in a sense of like, oh, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? Why doesn't he know about this? Because he does get an education about his future.
About what was supposed to have happened.
Yeah, and what's going to happen to him. But I will say, I think it's kind of cool that right off the bat you play him off as a dickhead, because he ports out of that particular situation in his handcuffs and they're about to take him back to Asgard, and he ends up in the middle of the Gobi Desert with a couple of people from the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. Immediately stands up, dusts himself off. I'm Loki from Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose, and everybody's looking at him like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, who, okay.
And then the TVA, or who we will come to be known as the TVA agents, they come through the door. I love it, and it's just an image thing, and I still like the Doctor Strange thing better when he does like the sling ring openings. I love the fact that their like portal doors look like three-dimensional doors. I think it's an interesting visual thing that like an actual physical door like plants itself before they walk through it. It's Marvel makes a lot of interesting visual choices, and I think it sets it apart from, the Sorcerer Supremes that are using the sling ring, that are using that kind of magic, whereas they just have this authority and this technology, and it sets itself apart from that. But they basically arrest him, and he tries to power trip on them, and they have the
They're basically like, we don't give a fuck.
Yeah, we don't give a single solitary fuck. We exist outside the timeline. We exist basically outside your reality. You are a plaything to us, which we'll come into it later on. The very first power move they pull on him is when they pull out the time wand and whatever, and they make him move at like 1/6 speed, and he gets punched in the face in slow motion. There's a lot of good comedy.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Where his face is like flapping in the breeze. It's like you're now moving at 1/6 the speed, but you're feeling all the pain in real time. And then they just drag him into the TVA. And I do love the fact that the TVA is supposed to be this thing that exists completely outside time. If I have it correctly, and this is, again, I'm pulling from Emergency Awesome, so sorry to the people that hate that I keep referencing them. But apparently the TVA was created at the end of time to police all time. So you think it would be like incredibly futuristic, and yet all the aesthetics
it's all very retro looking.
It's very like 70s spaceship. And nobody makes a big deal of it really. But it's very much, to me, it's a mock-up of every sitcom ever where somebody's had to go to the DMV.
Yeah, basically.
The first bit, and it was given away in an extended trailer that I saw, but when he goes to the first guy and he's like, please sign this, that these are every word you've ever said, and like as he keeps talking, like paper keeps coming out of the wall, he's like, sign this and this and this, and then they laser off his clothes because yes, guy that thinks he's powerful all of a sudden being naked is an awesome comedy trope. And then like as he's going through all these steps, he keeps dropping through floors. And all I could think of, and I don't know whether it's supposed to tie in or not, but it made me think of, what is it? I think it's Ragnarok, where they very briefly meet with Doctor Strange, and he does the whole, I've been falling for 30 minutes! Made me think of that, because every time he went through a step, he just kept dropping. Like, they lasered his clothes off, and by the time he fell, he had, like, TVA prisoner stuff on. Please walk through this scanner to make sure you're not a robot. What if I am a robot? Well, it'll melt you from the inside. Yeah, he's
like, how many people, like, think that they are?
Yeah, and how do you not know if you are?
And, like, everybody else is totally like, whatever. Like, they're just like...
Please carry on.
It is like... It's like people at the TSA, where they're just like, they repeat the same shit over and over. Mm-hmm. They don't care.
Yeah, it's new to you. It's not new to anybody else here. And then they complete the DMV metaphor by literally making him get in line and take a number, take a ticket. They immediately show him
and
what
he's
happened.
like, there's only 2 of us here.
Yes, and then he learns because the guy in front of him gets vaporized for not having a ticket. And then he immediately, like, freaks out and, like, starts searching his pockets for a ticket. They get the weird, and like I say, like, 70s animated, like, I bet you wonder why you're here. And it just explains the whole, what do they call it? They clean the Time Masters or whatever.
Miss Minutes.
Oh, Miss Minutes. Yeah, well, Miss Minutes is...
They basically, in a very short, cutesy, animated, old-timey animated video, explain what the TVA is and why people were picked up and taken out of the timeline and stuff like Loki.
Trimming all the... Well, because what do they say? Like, at the end of time, there was so many different branches that all the different branches of time, like, warred with each other over which was the ultimate timeline, so they went backwards, they cleaned up the timeline, and now it's the sacred timeline. And every time somebody steps...
one timeline.
The best is, like, where every time he thinks, like, oh, I'm going to get them, he's like, well, this isn't my fault, this is the Avengers, like, they're the ones that are bouncing back and forth all the way through time, and she's just like, yeah, but that was supposed to happen. Yours wasn't supposed...
I guess I don't know how I feel about that being, like, I guess, written off?
I don't think it's written off. I think they're implying that there is a set written story of time, and in that story, people have done time travel. But if the time travel that took place was written in the story, then it can still have... Like people write movies, where you start the movie at the end, and then you go through the middle, and then you get back to the end again. So I think that they're trying to take that logic to, like, literally how the Time Masters have done it. They've written a time story that included some characters that did have, I guess, approved time travel. It's like, yeah, but, like, your time travel wasn't part of it. And I get that, but I also don't really see that he traveled...
I assume it's because, so Loki, escaping and living and stuff.
And not going back to prison in Asgard.
Yeah, but made a separate branch. As opposed to not supposed to happen, it made a different branch. Because then there's one Loki. Every time there's, like, a decision made, like...
But also, like, the difference, too...
Now there's one Loki there's a Loki that's alive, and then there's a Loki that escaped and is alive, and then there's Loki that didn't escape and he ends up dying.
But I think it's also funny, it's a distinction that needs to be made, because he's comparing himself to the Avengers, who literally time traveled, like, back and forth and whatever. He himself, like the current version of Loki that we're talking about, he didn't time travel. Somebody else came back and gave him an opportunity to make a different choice than another version of him made, and that version is now on a different path. But he didn't move forward or backward or whatever. He escaped. He ended up in the Gobi Desert, of all places. But he didn't, like, flash forward in time or anything like that. So it's almost a apples and oranges comparison, like him porting out of there and ending up somewhere else.
And they make a note in the Avengers movie, or in Endgame, that they put the Infinity Stones back exactly when they took them. So now there's no longer a reality where, like, this Infinity Stone is gone and this Infinity Stone is here, because they placed it back exactly
right
when they took it.
Right. But they never replaced the version of the Tesseract that he has now. Because remember, they've traveled back in time to the Battle of New York to get that version of the Tesseract. Couldn't get it because he got his hands on it and now ported to Gobi Desert. They went even further back in time to get it from Howard Stark.
Well, and why I'm saying that's why, like, the Avengers time travel was okay, but
because they fixed it, more or less.
Yeah, because they got rid of the branch. I mean, that's all the time guys.
Well, that's the thing.
They
like,
do is get rid of branches.
Yeah. So we do flash away from him at some point, and we see some.
Yeah, because the ancient one, when Hulk goes to get the time stone from the ancient one, she kind of does a very quick explanation of
Yeah, she does, like, Time
Like,
Stone for Dummies.
yes, she does a very quick, like, yeah, this is what'll happen. And they're like, oh, well, then we'll just put everything back exactly when we took it. And then she's like, okay.
I don't know how they turned the Reality Stone back into vapor and put it back into Natalie Portman. Just saying.
Well, I think they took it after. No, they didn't. They took it out of her, didn't they?
They did, because remember, Rocket has that really awkward-looking needle thing, and it's assumed, like, off-screen that he got it from her, because they didn't actually have her. They just had, like, extra footage of her sleeping from one of the other Thor movies, and they just superimposed it in. So he's like, yeah, just while you were crying and talking to your mom, I just kind of did that. But, anyways, so we did have to get, at some point, a pull away from Loki to see what the TVA does, and you get a introduction is not a word.
Introduction.
To the Owen Wilson character, Mobius, and I'm going to have to try really hard to not call him Morbius, because that's something that's definitely going to happen. But him and a couple of TVA characters go back in time to France, and they're investigating a crime that has happened in this chapel. Everybody's dead. They're talking to one young witness who points to the devil in the stained glass and said, oh, that's the person who did it. And then shows them, like, a stick of gum or a stick of some kind of candy that's not from that time. They take that as evidence, and that's basically a little bit of seeing them do their investigation thing, and they keep on talking about, oh, like, this has all the hallmarks of him. We know who did this, with no names yet, obviously. Owen Wilson comes back in time for Loki's, I guess, trial for his time crimes, and he keeps trying to tell them off, and he keeps trying to use his powers, and his powers don't work because they exist out of time, so all that kind of thing. But before he gets sentenced, the Mobius character says, oh, I think I can use this guy. I know what this guy's capable of. And all the people that he works with do the typical, that thing that happens in movies. Oh, you don't want to waste your time with this guy. He's a loose cannon. You know, we can't trust him. And manufactured conflict is a wonderful thing. But yeah, apparently Mobius is able to just, like, walk into the middle of the trial and be like, yeah, I know you're about to sentence this guy, but I kind of need him for a second.
Well, I think him and that one chick have, like, a thing.
An assumed friendship, if nothing else.
Yes. An assumed thing.
Yeah, after the second episode, and we're going to get to that when we get to it, I get the feeling, it's never fully said, but I get the feeling that they used to be partners or work together on some degree, and implied relationship is also there, but, like, she's moved up, she talks to the three, like, magical time lizards, or...
Can I go ahead and make a prediction?
You can, obviously.
I think the end of this, when Loki finally does get to the time keepers,
yeah,
they don't actually exist.
I think it's going to be her. I have not read a single comic.
They're all real shady about.
Yeah. But, like, there's statues of the three timekeepers everywhere, and it's one of those you're trying a bit too hard things. I've not read a single comic, so anybody that's read a single comic
I have not either.
is in the comment section laughing at us, but I don't know. Like, apparently one of them, like, one of the rumors or theories or whatever is one of them is, can't think of his name now. Fucking Blueface dude, main villain of the Fantastic Four.
Kang the Conqueror?
There we go. Apparently one of them vaguely looks like him, or vaguely looks like...
Well, he does time travel.
Apparently one of the statues in one of the scenes vaguely looks like the actor that's going to be playing Kang the Conqueror later. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the actor. It's just one of the rumors that I've heard, so I thought I'd toss it in there. I think it's going to be one of those big, like, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain, like, Wizard of Oz situations.
I thought it was good. I think it's gonna be like that they haven't existed for a while, or they died, or something. Like, something is like, oh no, yeah, they're up there, you know, working on the timeline.
Oh, so you think they did exist, but they don't anymore, and somebody's keeping up the illusion?
Yes.
I like that better than them being a fabrication completely.
I don't think they're a fabrication completely.
Yeah.
I think they did exist at one point. I don't know how you would die, because, like...
if you are powerful enough to have control and oversee the entire length and breadth of time, I don't think you're dying.
Yes, but something. I think they maybe did exist at one point, and they don't.
I mean, the
anymore.
Celestials have
and
died,
they're
though.
like, and they're basically like, oh yeah, they're back there doing their thing.
Because isn't the planet of nowhere like literally the skull of one of the Celestials? So the Celestials can die, and we're gonna see the Immortals or whatever, the Eternals, sorry.
Yeah.
In that movie with Angelina Jolie and Jon Snow, so that'll be something. Watching Game of Thrones again.
That's my guess. That's my overall guess, is that somehow Loki's going to actually get his audience, and probably not by good means. Like, it's not going to be like, yeah, now we're going to give you an audience with them.
Yeah. I'm watching Game of Thrones again just because, like, Kit Harington is going to be in the Eternals movie, and, like, why the fuck not? We've still got some lockdown measures in place. But I want to take this opportunity. This has nothing to do with Loki. Anybody out there that's like me, that likes a little bit of fucked up stuff, two suggestions for you if you want my suggestions. Go check out Spiral from the Book of Saw if you like the Saw series. It works as a movie, doesn't quite work as a Saw movie, but it's still really good. Chris Rock and not Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, they're very different, are really good in it, and it's a good fucked up bit of fun. Also, if you have Amazon Prime, watch the show Panic. It's really good. It's kind of...
I keep getting advertisements for it, but I haven't ever actually,
The advertisement for it makes it look like a horror show, and it's not a horror show. It's kind of like Hunger Games meets Fight Club.
Okay.
It's really good. It's clever. It's very much like Hunger Games, where there's so much going on in the show that's not directly related to the game. It's just really clever. It's only 10 episodes. I watched it because where else am I gonna go? But yeah, go check that out. Two suggestions from the Book of Spaz, Spiral from the Book of Saw, and Panic if you have Amazon Prime or illegal downloading function. Moving on. We get the initial team up of Mobius and Loki. He keeps trying to say...
Well, that's, Mobius basically gets Loki on his side because at some point, he shows him what was supposed to happen and all of that, but then Loki also, ends up escaping at one point, trying to get away. I
feel like the escape in the middle is kind of irrelevant, because it's like there's one video presentation and another video presentation, and it's a bunch of sad shit, and he escapes for a little bit and ends up back there. So I don't know if you feel differently, but I feel like the escape in the middle is a little irrelevant, other than he takes his little time necklace thing off and puts it on the chick that arrested him. I do think the time thing is funny.
I do like that little collar that they have in order to make him go back and shit.
I like when he gets his hands on it and plays with it way too much. He's like, go fuck yourself.
Yes.
When he puts him in the chair and then he tries to get up from the chair and then some stuff happens and he zooms him back to the chair, but the chair isn't there anymore. He's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I like the part where he gets up, he zooms him back to the chair. He's like, I was getting up for dramatic effect.
He's like, okay, do it. No, it's not gonna have its effect now.
Well, now you took it. It won't make any sense.
No, but he immediately apologizes. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, the time spinner only affects you, not the furniture, because he lands on the floor.
Oh yeah, that one.
But he's trying to get in his head. He's trying to do the psychological shit on him. Loki's not really 100% believing where he is and telling him to go fuck himself. But he's showing him all his fail. He shows that Loki was actually DB Cooper, which they didn't have to throw that in at all. But I thought that was a really nice touch when he jumps out of the plane and Heimdall gets him with the Bifrost in midair.
Yes.
It's a really cool spot. I thought that was going to be a much more important part of the show, the way they put it in the trailer, but whatever. He basically says, your purpose in life is to go and be miserable and hurt a lot of people so that other people can be great, and then he just keeps showing pictures of the Avengers.
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures of the Avengers.
But it gets real sad from there.
Well, no, the escape sequence too, you were saying it didn't really it was just for this. It also kind of showed that we're not dealing with Infinity Stones anymore. Really.
Oh, that was
I don't know if anymore, but definitely here.
When they pull out the drawer at the secretary's desk, and he's like, yeah, we got a bunch of these. The guys use them as paperweights.
Yeah, and there's just a bunch of Infinity Stones. I assume from old timelines.
I assume from anybody that they've ever picked up, but I mean, like, they've got his version of the Tesseract, and they're keeping that aside. But I'm just, to me, that was I popped for that. Like, it was like, it's a couple minutes from the end of the episode, but I paused it, and I had a good laugh to myself, because the entire first 3 phases of the Marvel movies were all about gathering
these things are important.
Gathering the Infinity Stones, getting the gauntlet, the power of Thanos in this big apocalypse event, which, we're going to talk about a bunch of those in the next episode. And it was this big, like, world-ending thing. Pull out the drawer at the secretary's desk. Yeah, you want a paperweight? Like, from this to this, I couldn't stop laughing. I had to rewind the end of the show and watch it again. But basically, he gets Loki on side at the end of the day, and he's like, "Oh, you need help from the god of mischief, eh?" He's like, "Yeah, you might be able to help me find who I'm looking for, 'cause it's you."
Dun dun dun.
And then
here is my thing.
Okay.
About.
Oh no.
That is hopefully that they're gonna explain at some point, but it's very confusing, and it kind of goes into the second episode, so. We could talk about that too. So they determined that they've hunted a bunch of Lokis, different kinds.
Yep.
And that this one is just like extra, like troublesome, basically.
Yep. I can tell you why they're more troublesome. Anyways.
My question is, where are all these other like alternate Lokis coming from? Because if there's only one timeline, the sacred timeline, then the Loki they have, Tom Hiddleston, is the only Loki that should exist. But clearly they have all these, and they use the word variant Lokis.
Yep.
But where did they come from? Did they come from like the timelines that they were talking about that they kind of like?
Well, we see where variants are able to hide and not be seen in the second episode. So if all of them are following that same path, that's the only explanation I can come up with at this point. I don't have an answer for you, but if I could make up one, that's pretty much the only thing I can think of at this point. I do think it is, before we get off the first episode, there's a really awesome visual scene at the end, because all they say, they don't talk about the other Lokis, but they just say, hey, the variant we're looking for is you, and then they flip to another in Salina, Oklahoma, in some big field where these TVA agents have found this person that they're looking for, cloaked figure, we don't see them, rah-de-rah-de-rah. They think they found the person they're looking for. All of a sudden, they smash the personal lantern or whatever, and the entire thing goes up as you see the cloaked figure as you go to black. If we had been able to do this recording last week, I would have been so hyped on that ending, because that ending, that couple of seconds of that ending, that final image, was the best thing in the whole episode. Because, you talk about, like, hooks that make you want to watch the next episode, or, like, especially in Netflix where, we get a whole season and we binge things, and it's why we can't turn them off because the hook takes us to the next episode and whatever. I thought that was done really well. One small little, like, ending teaser, but I thought it was really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But takes us into the second episode, where we go to another team of TVA agents investigating another potential variant in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at a Renaissance fair in 1985.
See, I did not see the 1985 part, and so I'm like, I didn't see like the time it was. I just saw where it was, and I'm like, this is a Renaissance festival. This isn't like medieval times.
See, here's what I'm going to ask you though, right? Does it matter? For that particular one, because the whole thing was set in a Renaissance fair.
Here's my other question about the TVA. Their whole thing is like they clean up the timeline, basically. Would they not then need to Like, 'cause they walk around. I guess they try to only be in the area where whatever happened.
Well,
Would
it's
they
a little
not
bit
need
devious,
to,
but
like, be in period garb at least?
well, no,
So that
because
they...
the devious part of it and the dark part of it that I think is completely undersold, and I think it's actually kind of cool that it's undersold. When they set those little charges, the little reset charges, it says, okay, and we're gonna reset everything, reset the timeline, and I think what that does is it goes outwards and it dissolves anything that would have.
That's not supposed to be there.
No, it dissolves anything that interacted with anything that wasn't supposed to be there. So I think anybody that even remotely saw them is like blinked out. It's kind of dark. But I mean, I could be like, let me just say for the record, I could be interpreting that completely wrong. But the whole idea is that you never see the other Loki, but you do see the little bit of like green power go over one of them, and one of them is brainwashed and kills all the other ones. And it's sort of a musical montage because they play Hero in the background.
Yeah, it was. I felt like it was. I think they were like, this is like a thing we do in Marvel.
I think it was one of those.
it?
It was one of those musical choices that's like intentionally dissonant. Like as the viewer, you're going to be like, "Why is the music so happy? This is fucking terrible." Like, and that is a thing. I don't know what to call it per se, but the variant takes the time reset thing that I was just talking about.
Yeah, it's stealing those like time reset grenades.
Yeah, and the control panels that each one of them has that allows them to have like a door and whatever. But here's what I don't understand, right? Is they take the little time reset bomb thing and the little iPad, for lack of a better term, but also she takes one of the TVA agents with her, like drags them through the door. And
we say her because we've already spoiled it.
Well, yeah. No, I meant her as in like the body that gets dragged through the door.
Then I just spoiled it.
Well,
Whoops.
it is what it. I think by the time this goes out, the episode will be up for 5 days, and I only watched it today, so I got spoiled on something. But you know what? It's the streaming world we live in, and if you go a couple days out, you're going to hear something or you're going to see something. But I don't know why this variant takes one of the TVA like corpses, for lack of a better term, because like they've got the little iPad gimmick, they've got the little time bomb.
Oh, they explain later that they use her to figure out where the I keep wanting to say Time Lords, but that's like a different thing.
Yeah. Oh, I think they actually call them Minutemen, which makes me think of the Watchmen.
Yes, the Minutemen. Yeah.
You've seen the Watchmen.
Yes.
We do need to. That's one we should review at some point, but that's a complicated movie to review.
They take her to find out where the head honcho guys, the guys that manage all of time.
Space lizards, the time lizards.
I want to call them Time Lords, and I know they are not all the Time Lords, but
it's something equal. It's something equally on the nose.
Because she needed to know like where they were
and when they were,
and so she's like, "I told them," basically.
I totally missed that because we do see her again at the end.
Yeah, because when she's like mumbling to herself.
See, it just took me until right now to realize that was her instead of one of the ones that's involved in the investigation at the end. I totally missed that. You put that together for me. Thank you.
That's why he took her.
That's why you get a really good co-host that pays more attention than me, apparently. But we do flash back to Loki in the TVA, and he's, we've all gotten a new job. We've all had to take training videos, and that's basically what he's doing with Miss Minutes, except Miss Minutes is like this little hologram thing that's hopping all around until he swats her, and she goes and hides in his computer. And he's not learning all his lessons properly, rah-de-rah-de-rah.
Except that he is, because later they like ask him shit, and he's like,
"Well, this is the thing. Like
it's like the kid that's like not paying attention, looks like he's not paying attention in class, and so then the teacher calls on him, and he goes, "Okay, then what did I just say?" And then perfectly recites what he just said, even though it looks like he's not paying attention.
Yeah. So they are going to go investigate. Mobius does go talk to the rest of his people to be like, look, what's better to find a Loki than another Loki? And that, like, even though that is the point, like, I get that that's the point, but they hammer that home a lot. And then he sort of pulls him to the...
Well, and they, at first, Mobius treats him like, it's kind of like playing to his vanity, and then in the second episode, totally takes a 180, is like, I'm just using you to, like, get this, you're not fucking, like, special or anything.
Yeah.
And, like, anytime he tries to put his insight in to be like, this is what a Loki would do.
I feel like I feel like they're intentionally writing the dialogue between the two of them where either... At any given time, either one of them could get one up on the other, and both would be believable. But it means that the dialogue between them right now is, like, painfully even. Mm-hmm. But and he pulls them aside as they're going to the first investigation. He says, "Oh, I'm gonna get you an appointment with the timekeepers eventually, and maybe we can help you out and whatever." And he does fool them because when they do get to the site where all the other TVA people have been killed, and he's like, "Oh, let me tell you exactly what I would do," and he gives them the big speech about the wolf and the teeth and the ears and all that sort of thing. And he draws them all in until
he does the classic, this is the smart guy at the crime scene investigation.
Until Mobius finally realizes that he's full of shit.
Yes.
And it's fine, and he's like, "Oh, I had you," but the thing is, there's an art to talking bullshit, and you know that I'm talking bullshit, and I convince you that I'm not talking bullshit for a couple seconds so that you listen to my bullshit, even though you know it's bullshit. And I'm like, okay, this is look at how clever I am dialogue. But then what's more painful than that is Mobius going back to the office and talking to the judge girl that we've already said, like, they've got some sort of either personal or working relationship previous to the show, and you just need that authority figure to keep reminding you, like, it's like a cop show. It's like, oh, I don't know why.
It's like you're being unorthodox.
Not even that. It's like, oh, I don't know why you stick up for your partner so much. He's such a loose cannon. And I'm like, this is... I love how painfully, cringily, like, cliche it is, but at the same time, it is painfully, cringily cliche.
Yeah.
And then we get into the good shit. Then we get into the, like, Loki is actually smart shit. And he says, here, I'm going to give you homework, and you can look up and study all the other variants of yourself that there are. Which sends him to the library, where
again, I'm still on the opinion of, okay, how are there this many variants of one specific person? Like, I understand the concept of, like, you know, one Loki went left, one went right, and so now there's a split.
I feel like
it's supposed to go right.
I feel like towards the end, we're going to get a narrator from Lord of the Rings, and he's going to dub our Loki the one Loki to rule them all.
Them all? The superior Loki. They've already started talking about that, so it probably wouldn't be that far off.
Oh, I have an issue that is going to be an issue going forward when we get to the multiple Lokis, but we're not there yet. Because we didn't say in the first episode. Sorry, like the general progression of sadness that Loki goes through when he's getting that video presentation is he finds out about his failure. He finds out about how the Battle of New York didn't work in his favor and he went back to prison. We find out that, hey, you sent all those enemies to kill your brother, but actually they killed your mom. And by the way, this is how the almost apocalypse happens, where the big purple fucker snaps your neck. So, like, gradual...
And also Asgard.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to now, because he doesn't find out about Asgard until this. But even then, he has to have the scene where somebody shits on him, because he goes to the I guess you want to say the library attendant, and the library attendant won't talk to him until he dings the bell. Again, another cliche. Whatever. He's like, I want everything on the beginning of time. Well, no, you can't have that. That's classified. Okay, I want everything about the beginning of the TVA. No, you can't have that. That's classified. Can I get the end of time? Nope, you can't have that. That's classified. Well, what can I have? Here's all the file we have on you. That's what you can, that's what you can have. And then within all those documents, there is the apocalypse report on the destruction of Asgard. I think, again, like, you look at the events of Ragnarok. And Ragnarok's a fun movie, don't get me wrong, right? Like, there's comedy in it. It's when they finally got Thor right and whatever. But, like, they did destroy Asgard. You had, like, fucking Surtur there.
Killed a lot of people.
Flamey Crowny thing. And, you know, for better or for worse, Thor and Loki lost a sister. Or at least we think they lost a sister. We never actually saw her die. Big, huge event. And now in this show, it's reduced to an apocalypse report. Mm-hmm. Which I think is hilarious. But then he develops the apocalypse theory. And I think this, when they talk about being able to find people and find people that aren't supposed to be in certain times, whatever, I think this part of the show is actually low-key brilliant. No pun intended. Mm-hmm. The idea that you could basically go to any point in time where there's an apocalyptic event, because nothing you do there is going to change anything because everybody's about to die. So as far as going up and down a timeline, that's a perfect hiding spot. And he tries to convince Mobius of this, and he does it really badly with a horrible metaphor involving his salad.
Destroying Mobius's lunch.
Destroying Mobius's salad with the salt and the pepper and somebody else's juice box.
Yeah.
Which was really bad. And it happened to be the secretary dude that showed him that the Infinity Stones were paperweights.
That guy's going to keep popping up.
Yeah, that guy is just going to keep getting shit on. It's gonna be like, he's gonna be like the guy in one of the scenes. It's like, this isn't the coffee that I asked for, and he gets like hot coffee tossed in his face, or whatever. So to prove the theory, they go to Pompeii in 79 AD, right before
Which is like a big no-no. They're only supposed to really go to places where like shit happened that's not supposed to have happened. They're not supposed to just be like time travel tourists.
But that's the whole thing, is like, if he was wrong, they would have gotten in trouble because they would have shown up as something that wasn't supposed to be there. But because of the apocalypse nature of the specific time and place that they pinpointed, it literally proves his point, because he comes in there and he starts talking to the people in Pompeii in 79 AD, right before the volcano went off. And he starts like opening up all the cages and setting all the goats free and shit. And he's like, Everything's terrible. Everything's pointless. You're all about to die. And, like, everybody starts freaking out, and then you see...
And Mobius is there, like, watching his little PDA thing.
And you know what I love, though?
Like,
and
a branch
again, I'm going to go to the symbolism thing, right? Is because he stands there with his arms outstretched like he's making a big production, right? And he doesn't really move for a second. And it looks like Tony Storm... Or, not Tony Storm. Tony Stark... Tony Storm, wrestling mind, can go fuck off over there. Yep, that's a thing that just happened. It reminds me of Tony Stark at the beginning of the very first Iron Man movie, when he's giving the display of the Stark rockets.
Because
he has that pose with, you know, the arms outstretched to let the explosion happen behind me, because cool guys don't look at explosions, right?
Yes.
Loki has the exact same pose. It's the exact same.
I didn't even think about that.
It's the exact same as him falling through the floor, and, you know, I've been falling for 30 minutes, except it's paying homage to somebody else. I don't know. I could be totally off. It looks similar to me, and that's what jumped out. So he proves his point, because nothing happens. Nothing branches off in the timeline, because he just talked to a bunch of people that were about to die anyway, which is kind of morbid, but it's kind of an awesome theory to add to all the different TV and movie theories that go along with time travel. And then they go back, and Morbius is being, like, Mobius, not Morbius.
Mobius.
There we
not
go.
Not Morbius.
I
said Morbius. I started this.
I told you I was going to do it. But they have this really cool conversation, and this is where, like I say, their like banter equal conversation goes very quickly from Loki asking Mobius why he has jet ski magazines to a literal "where did we all come from" theological conversation. And if I try to tell you how they got from A to B, I probably couldn't.
No.
But it's fine.
I could not either.
They get onto something about the candy that the kid had in the first... Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. I have a theory that when they go to see the murder scene in... Where is it? I think it's in France, in the first episode, where they're checking out the chapel or the cathedral or wherever it is.
Where he gets the gum.
Where he gets the gum and the kid points up at the devil. I am willing to bet right now that we're going to find out in later episodes that kid was another hidden alternative Loki. because there is a kid Loki. I've looked a bit forward in some of the, like, not in some of the stories, but like in some of
You've done some wiki goofoo.
Not wiki goofoo, but like, hey, here's some things that are going to be in the show. Like, here's some things you can look forward to, type things, or speculations.
Okay.
There is
I try and avoid those just because I'm like.
Oh, I do very surface stuff, but like, I figure if it's on the surface, then it's obvious to some people. So I'm thinking we're maybe going to find out that kid was another alternative Loki, but not necessarily bad, just, you know, wrong place, wrong time, wrong timeline. But they figure out that this kid's gum was from some time space between like 2040 and 2050 or something like that. So the person that did all the destruction gave them the gum. They must be in that timeline. So they're going to look at all the apocalypse level events that happened between, like, whatever it is, 2040, 2050, where the gum
was... And it has to be ones where, like, everyone dies.
Yeah. And then they find one in Haven Hills, Alabama, in 2050. There is a city, town, state, whatever, that's completely wiped out by a hurricane. But because there was hurricane stuff going on, the state or city or whatever would have been fully stocked. It would have been the perfect place to hide. And right in the center, there was the box cart store, which is, I guess, their version of Costco or whatever. Or Roxcart, because apparently Roxxon is like a big evil corporation in the comics that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
So they go, and they're going to go into the future, and they're going to check out this big apocalypse event that's happening. And it's cool because you see the digital, like, city sign of Haven Hills.
Yeah.
And right as they're arriving is when the tree takes out the sign, because obviously hurricane winds and trees and whatever, but it's one of those TV convenience things. Oh, the sign waited just long enough for everybody to get here so that they know where they are, and then it got blown over. But as Mobius is trying to convince Loki to come along and trying to get the team all together, he actually pulls out Loki's knives so that he can actually be armed if he needs to be armed. And
there's a main
TVA agent that's a bit of a bitch. Let's just say.
I think she is. I'm trying to find her.
I think they all, like, a bunch of them just have, like, Agent F523 type
Yeah,
names.
she's B-15. Hunter B-15.
And, like, her whole character trait is, I'm the one that arrested Loki, therefore I'm the one that's got it out for him for the rest of the show. Like, I think that's literally her character thing. Because he hands him the blades, and she's like, nope, and, like, she takes them and chucks them in her locker. So it's like, yes. You're going to help us. You have no choice in the matter.
Also, once he has magic, couldn't he just make his blades appear anyways?
I mean, yes, but it's still a power play on her point while they're on her home turf.
Yes.
So the implication being...
Which is funny because he doesn't use his magic very much except to dry himself off.
Oh my god, that's hysterical. Because they all freak out. Oh my god, what was that? Yeah, I don't want to announce my presence by squeaking across the floor like the rest of you idiots.
Yeah.
But it's still...
dry myself off.
Yeah, it's still the general thought, like, while they're still in the TVA and while he doesn't have magic, it's still the idea of, yeah, you gotta come help us. We're taking you to the future that you're not familiar with, where there could be all kinds of violence and danger, and I want you to be unarmed, and you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, she doesn't want him there anyway, so...
Okay, but literal murder. Potential literal murder. Well,
in her mind, he should have been deleted. So if he dies, then what the fuck ever.
Deleted is a nice way of saying murder.
Yes.
But what it does do is, like,
because
Loki basically rolls his eyes and says, whatever, fuck it, and it just continues the power struggle between her and Mobius, which is a nice little side story. And as they show up and as they're all bickering amongst themselves, and after he's dried himself off with magic, we go to what is still at that point the cloaked figure watching them all arrive on the monitor, because it's a store and of course it has a security system, and why wouldn't it?
So when I said earlier that I don't like try and read like other stuff that could be in the show,
you lied.
That was a small bit of a lie. Continue.
Okay. So as they're going through, she wants to separate Loki from Mobius because, Mobius is actually going to have your back. Let's get you as far away from him as possible, because I'm a bitch. evil Loki takes over the TVA agent, and then like the enchantment goes from the TVA agent to a random employee, and so Loki figures he's talking to another version of himself. He starts going into a ramble about, hey, you know, if you and I work together, you're basically me. We could overthrow the timekeepers and whatever. And then, you know, the enchantment goes from an employee to like random redneck Loki. Which is the only way I can really explain it. And they have a fight.
It's just like they're just like mind controlling random people.
Yeah.
Like it's passed from the next.
It's funny because
it's
like she's well, I don't care. It's a reveal at this point. Like this other Loki isn't possessing the other, like not taking over the body of, but like possessing them from afar. It's like remote possession.
Yeah.
Because evil Loki is doing some stuff that we're going to see in a second. But like as soon as evil Loki has like possessed like, you know, big jacked up trucker redneck guy and they have a fight and whatever, it's like, okay, what do you want? What do you really want? If you don't want to overthrow the timekeepers, why am I here? What's all this about? And he just says like, prepare yourself, and then he falls down, and then the end of that sentence comes from the other Loki, and the end of that sentence is prepare yourself. This isn't about you. Because that's the biggest ego shot to Loki, is like, oh my god, you know, what is it? What do you need? What do I got to do? What's the meaning of all this? And this has nothing to do with you. You don't matter. Like that's the biggest shot.
And then the cliffhanger is after that conversation.
Well, after you get the reveal of female Loki who has like little tiny Loki horns.
Yes.
But yeah.
You see that she's taken all of the like deletion detonators that she took.
Are you implying that she's having a final deletion? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess is what I've decided. Whatever.
See, that isn't as funny without Guapo, and with this not being a wrestling conversation.
She like is able to make little tiny like time doors that they like fall through.
Well, because every person she's taken down, she's taken their little iPad thing and she's taken their little like time reset thing, and she just sets them out everywhere. Like you got to figure like everyone that drops
randomly through the timeline.
Yeah.
And I guess it's destroying shit that I'm very confused as to what they're doing. But
I don't think we're supposed to entirely know. I think it's supposed to be like a big visual thing, and then the explanation and consequences of that will obviously come in the next episode, right?
Well, they already showed that whatever it is whatever it is she did is causing like a bunch, like a whole fuck ton of timeline branches.
It's like the way I can explain it, and the only way I could visually like make it work in my own head was like if you were going to take down a huge wall, right? It's going to be a great wall. Anyways, if you were going to take down a huge wall, like you would put a bomb like every 10 feet, and structurally that would break it down enough that you could get rid of what's left, right? I think throughout the timeline, they've basically placed a bomb at key points along the timeline to destroy the timeline, as if it is a literal physical object of length.
Okay.
And I like that as a theory. I'm probably going to be proven wrong in the next episode. And she runs away, and there's this cool moment where you don't really know what everybody's thinking, because Loki.
She walks through a door, like a time door that she made for herself.
Yeah, and she doesn't want to be called Loki. Like, that's made clear in their conversation as well. Because he calls her Loki. He calls her Loki at one point, and she's like, "Oh, don't call me that."
A lot of people think that the theory is that she's the Enchantress.
Apparently, it's a combination. And again, I got to give credit to Emergency Awesome on this because I didn't know. Apparently, what they've done for the show is they've combined the two characters of Enchantress and Icole, which is a reverse Loki that is female, because it's literally Loki spelled backwards. They tried really hard on that one. So apparently what they've done is they've basically made a hybrid of those two characters, kind of like when they made Hela for Ragnarok. They sort of combined the stories of Hela and Death. So apparently that's not quite the same, but I think it's a really cool thing because they get to the end and all the other TVA agents have caught up with them, and all the other TVA agents figure Loki's in on it.
They're like,
Mobius.
he is gonna betray us.
Yep, Mobius is like, oh fuck, I was wrong about this all along, and Loki's like, I really want to follow this and find out what the fuck she's up to, and they're gonna think exactly all the wrong things about me if I go through that door. But guess what? Whee!
Yep. They also, like, going back a little bit, have like a moment where, like, Morbius says something about,
Mobius?
so you can do the most cliche backstabbing ever by stabbing me in the back, literally.
He's like,
"No,
I'd
but I
never
would
do
never
that."
do that because that's boring.
He's like, you've literally done that.
You've
Literally done that 50 times. Yeah, but I'm bored of it now. That's the best defense ever. Like, obviously you think I'm a shitty person. I'm not going to convince you that I wouldn't do it because it's bad, but maybe I can convince you that I wouldn't do it because it's boring. I don't know. I think it's good. I think, like, if I want to use another wrestling term, Loki playing the ultimate tweener in the whole thing, because it's a hard thing that they're trying to do, and it's a hard thing that they're asking the audience to come along with, because we watched, like, the main MCU Loki right up until Infinity War, who was basically a good guy by the end of Ragnarok. We watched him progress to being a good guy, but now we're dealing with the Loki that was... They've literally plucked him out of the first Avengers movie, where he was the main villain of the movie. So now they're trying to... I think they're trying to fast-track character development to get him to at least, like, tweener status. Like, we're not going to see him as a good guy.
I did a Google search real quick. Somebody paused, and... Because when they show that she's made all of these branches, there's a screen that's showing, like, where all the variant timelines are, and somebody has gone and pulled up all the locations and times that
I'm gonna say
into.
I'm gonna say one more time, shameless plug for Emergency Awesome. I'm not getting paid, I promise. In one of his breakdowns, he literally did the list, because some of them are historical points and some of them are, like, historical MCU points. Like,
Yes.
Xandar is on there, Vormir is on there, Ego is on there, Titan is on there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like, you're going to go to Titan and it's going to be, like, the moment that Titan got destroyed, which made Thanos want to do the snap plan.
Yeah.
When you go to... was it the Nova Corps planet, it's going to be when Thanos arrived at that planet and destroyed them. When you go to Ego, it's probably going to be when Star-Lord and them defeated Ego. No, it's crazy, and, like, for stuff like that, you need to talk to somebody other than me. And I'm not putting myself down when I say that to anybody that's listening to me that wants that type of Easter egg breakdown. Go to What Culture, go to Cinema Sins, go to Emergency Awesome, like I've been saying all throughout this episode. They will have that shit for you on point. I will bring a couple of interesting ones to the episodes if there's something that I hear that I think is worth mentioning, but I personally am not going to be able to give you stuff like that. But it is interesting.
It looks like none of the charges went to, like,
New York?
No, never mind. I was going to say none of them went to, like, I guess, our future, but that's not true. The one on Vormir is in 2301.
Well, Vormir is where
you get the Soul Stone.
Yeah, it's where Red Skull's guarding the Soul Stone. We don't know how, but in theory, Cap put all the stones back. So they haven't had an apocalyptic event at that place. And you don't have to have all 6 Infinity Stones to fuck some shit up. So in 23 whatever, somebody could go get the Soul Stone and start fucking some shit up. I don't know if Red Skull will still be there. Does Red Skull die? Do we know?
I mean, I think he's a ghost. Like,
fair enough.
I think he just lives there now.
Is his soul not trapped in the stone, but trapped outside the stone to guard the stone? I
think is what they...
Are we gonna get a Red Skull spin-off series, and it's just like him fighting off like assholes that want the Soul Stone?
The one for Ego is in 1832.
Oh.
So this article is speculating that they're trying to make it to where Star-Lord was never born. That's what their speculation is. I feel like that's a little far back if you're trying to.
Well, Ego is a big enough being to like recreate himself as a planet. So if you go back that far and you create multiple, if you had an army of Egos, the rest of the planet is fucked, or the rest of the universe is fucked rather. There's a lot of cool things that they could do there. The problem with
the planet with the Krees is set to like 54 BC or like CE.
Oh. I got
it doesn't
nothing.
Look like they're. Oh no, Xander is a charge of 1,000 and went to 1001. Yeah, they have a list of all the like.
Yeah.
Somebody paused that screen.
Yeah, somebody's done a bunch of screenshots and some googling. Yeah. They've out wiki goofood us because I'm not looking up every single location and every single date. Not happening, guys.
I just pulled this one up, and they have speculations on some of them, and then they just have, and then the ones they don't have speculation of is just a list.
I was gonna say I think some of them are just like actual history references. But it's one of those things.
Yeah, let's see. Let's look at. Let's grab a random one. There's one on here. It says it's Lisbon, Portugal, March 31st, 1492. I assume that's when Columbus left.
Sailed the ocean blue?
Let's see. Let me see. Portuguese Inquisition.
All right, then.
I was wrong. That is not what that is. Looks like the Jews were expelled from Spain to Portugal in that year. Oh, so they're not like obvious ones.
Yeah, like
that's interesting.
I'm not going to take it just because it's like the easiest one, but I don't think on a list like that they're going to randomly throw on like 9/11. Like I think they are going to go for something a bit more obscure. Like they could put all of 2020 and most of 2021, but I mean that's a little close to the best.
Let's see, Kingsport, U.S., 1999. A bunch of them are. This was a thing that happened in the Loki, TV show.
Some of them might be like references to like, hey, this is the first year an issue of the Thor comics came out that had Loki in it. Like they could be simple ones like that as well. I literally have nothing to reference, and I feel like
I'm interested because I bet some of these, like you said, probably don't mean anything.
But some of them will.
I'm curious if like.
I think when you've got something this widespread that's basically going to be, and like we said before, it's going to be meant to introduce the multiverse stuff. Like it's going to take us to Multiverse of Madness. It's going to take us to the Spider-Verse and whatever. But like when you see that graphic at the end with all the different branches, like there's no way that every single one of those becomes a story. So there's a big chance.
It would be very Marvel if like some historic event happened.
Oh yeah.
On all of those, but you're right. Some of these are probably also like this is when this comic debuted.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if you look down a list of Easter eggs like that, and one of them was like Stan Lee's birthday.
Let's see.
Oh no.
Hang on, I'm looking at September 21st. Let's see. Harry Carey died on that day.
There you go.
I'm interested to see if these are like a thing. Palestinian Arab High Committee spokesperson declared that the separate Arab state in basically they destroyed the state of Palestine.
All right.
Like, there's just literally a Wikipedia of, like, stuff that happened in this month.
Yep.
When you scroll down.
On this day in history exists for a reason.
It'd be interesting if, like, they got some history geek to be like, all right, throw us out some, like, dates, but we don't want it to be, like, too big a thing.
Yeah.
So, find us some historical things that, if, like, something slightly changed, you know, it might be fucked up.
Yeah. I don't know, man. You're already looking way more into it than I did. So.
I'm totally interested now that I see all these dates.
I think what's happening is Kristen is offering to release an entirely separate bonus episode on all the different historical dates, either real history or MCU history, and I can't wait to receive that audio from her to release it to you guys.
Do you want it to be the lowest rated part of your show? Kristen just explains history.
Real
Everybody
and fictional.
Like, oh, God.
Oh, no. Anyway.
No one will listen to it. I would happily do it, because history is super fascinating to me. I mean, I have an archaeology degree and a history minor.
So you heard it here first. The first solo Kristen podcast on this channel is coming soon.
It will be the lowest rated show on your channel.
That's
promise.
Fine. My ratings stink anyways. That's why YouTube yells at me.
You will listen to it, and that's it.
It's true.
And you probably won't listen to all of it.
Oh, I don't know. I'm at work, and sometimes the days get slow, and I get really, really bored on my forklift.
I literally, at one point on YouTube, wanted to do videos on this day in history. I wanted to do that at one point on YouTube, and then, you know.
Now you don't YouTube anymore. You come here to YouTube.
Yes, I come here to YouTube. Thornton versus the U.S. Huh. One sec. On let's see. Oh, this isn't a day. This is Thornton, U.S. October 25th. I just learned something completely different doing this Google search.
Oh dear.
Okay, sorry.
So in general, what do we think? I know you have said you're gonna let it go another episode or two before you fully make up your mind about the whole show.
I'm gonna watch all of it just
yeah.
Because, you know, if nothing else, you almost have to be like, okay, well, that something happens in this, and I'm entertained by it. I'm just, when it comes to time travel, things can get real gummy real fast.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to a time travel story, you're either going to get where they don't explain enough, or they try to explain too much and end up contradicting itself, right? But I also think, like, at this point in, like, creating stories like this, you know that going in. So if you come out of it with either they didn't explain that enough or they contradicted themselves a little, then you really didn't know what you were going into going in. I mean, that's a little bit permissive on my part, but, like, it is what it is, in a sense. I think the first two episodes were a great diametric opposition to each other, where the first one was like a reasonably paced, sort of friendly introduction to the show, and the second episode was like, now we're throwing you into the shit. And I think that works. I think if the next one is just a little bit held back and a little bit response to what happened in this episode, and they keep pushing and pulling the tension of the episodes, I think that'll be great. I think doing this weird, wacky, dimensional shit after doing a grounded show like Falcon and Winter Soldier is also great. So...
well, we'll see what happens.
And I mean, it's really hard, like, and you and I have said this before, it's really hard for a Marvel property to fail and lose my interest. I mean, I watch some of the Star Wars stuff, but I don't watch it having anything to say about it. So that's what MCU has over Star Wars for me. But yeah, we'll get the next one out to you guys whenever we get to it, either in a week or two, or maybe at the end, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. But you will hear from us sooner or later about something at some point. Kristen, tell them where to find you.
You can find me on Twitter at BlackCatFeline, where I don't tweet. You can find me on Instagram at BlackCatFeline,
where you don't gram.
Instagram, where I don't gram. I may start putting like pictures of the foster dogs we have up there. We have a new foster dog right now.
That's happy.
He's adorable. His name is Bentley, and he is a cute, adorable basset hound that just got over parvo. I've been taking care of at work.
And you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. She's been Kristen. I've been Spaz. This has been Flix Fix. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, myself and Kristen are out of here. Bye, guys.
Bye.